My name is Eleanor, but most people call me Ellie. I'm in my early 30s, and I spend most of my days restoring gravestones at Oak Haven Memorial Park. It's work that really takes a lot of patience and steady hands. With my tools, I clean the stone, fill in cracks, and recarve inscriptions that time has just worn away. The silence of the place, only ever broken by birdsong or the soft sound of my trowel, was actually a good thing in my routine. I really loved the smell of wet stone and damp earth that came up whenever I started working. The soft brush gently cleaned off the moss. Then my trowel would scrape with a smooth sound, taking off anything that wasn't supposed to be there. Each faded letter was like a small puzzle, a challenge I always conquered with patience and focus. There, I felt like I had everything completely under control, like things were just returning to their proper place. It was just me and the work, a kind of peace that genuinely made me feel good. For me, death was honestly never really an end. It was more like a rest, a place where those final words, etched into stone, just stayed there forever. I felt such immense pride in taking care of that, making absolutely sure those messages stayed put, never changing. The cemetery was my refuge, my truly safe place. I liked my solitude there. It was always my choice. There was this one grave, one of the oldest, a special project for me. It belonged to the Fairmonts, a really well-known family in town. The stone was very worn down, a real challenge. The inscription was simple: "Rest in peace." I'd worked on it many times, knew every crack, every corner. Just another job, but I liked that one. As the sun started to go down, I painted the last details. I packed up my things, feeling that good kind of tired you get from honest work. I looked out at the cemetery, at the long shadows cast by the headstones. It was the prettiest hour. Everything felt totally at peace. Tomorrow, I knew I'd be back for another day just like it. I came back the very next day, super early. The sun had barely risen, but I was already there. I went straight to the Fairmont Monument. I started taking my tools out, but something just made me stop. The phrase, "Rest in peace," looked a little bit different. Maybe a letter, like the E, seemed a bit thicker, or the line of the P was carved a bit deeper. I looked again, rubbed my eyes hard. It had to be just tiredness, or maybe the morning light was playing tricks on me. Days passed by and I went back. I really had to finish the job. But as soon as I got close to it, my heart just absolutely jumped. It wasn't "Rest in peace" anymore. Now, it was just there, clear as day, "Help me." The exact same calligraphy that I had restored, but now with a brand new, really urgent message. I felt a cold dread in my stomach. It wasn't tiredness, nor the light playing tricks on me. This was undeniably real. I ran my hand over the stone, trying to feel for fresh paint, some kind of glue, but there was nothing. It was the stone itself. It looked like someone had actually carved it right there. But who and how? I tried. I swear I tried to find an explanation. Vandalism? But the lettering was perfect, identical to the original, like the stone just changed itself. I went back in the morning, in the afternoon, almost at sunset. I took pictures from every angle, compared them. Nothing. Just the damned phrase, "Help me," carved there. Every time I went back, I felt more and more like I wasn't alone. A weird feeling, like invisible eyes were following me between the headstones. My stomach just twisted into knots. That morning, the air in the cemetery felt strange, heavy, even with the sun shining bright. I walked up to the tomb, my heart already pounding faster, a mix of fear and this weird curiosity. And there it was. The phrase had changed again. Watch your back. The letters looked scratched, urgent, almost trembling on the stone. My body froze right then. All the blood drained from my face. It wasn't a plea for help anymore. It was a direct warning. For me. I felt a shiver run up my spine, and a feeling that I wasn't alone just got stronger. I spun around, fast, almost tripping over my own feet. I expected to see someone, anyone, but there was no one. The sun was bright, right on my back, burning the back of my neck. But my shadow, it was there, thrown onto the tombstone, right in front of me. Dark, distorted, like the light was coming from some impossible place. It made no sense. Fear just grabbed me hard. It wasn't just a warning, it was a joke. The tomb was laughing at me, at my desperation, at my dumb face that didn't understand anything. That laughter, even without a sound, just stuck in my head. It was like the tomb was right there, following me, mocking me. I started walking fast, then running. Every step felt like someone was watching me, those invisible eyes burning into my back. I felt exposed, stupid, for thinking I was safe there. The shadow, the one that had been on the stone, now seemed to move in the corner of my eye, a blur vanishing when I turned my head. My heart was pounding so hard, I thought it would just jump out of my chest. The air got heavy, cold, even with the sun out. I ran between the trees and headstones, half expecting something to grab me, to touch me. But it was just the emptiness and the doubt eating at me. The cemetery, once my peaceful place, turned into a hell of fear. I knew I wasn't alone, but there was no one to tell me I wasn't going crazy. I got home, out of breath, my heart still racing. I slammed the door and turned the key 3 times, just for safety. I pulled all the curtains shut, one by one, like the dark outside could look in at me. It didn't help. That feeling that something had come home with me slipped in through the cracks. It wouldn't go away. My house, my sanctuary, it felt different. The water glass from the kitchen was in the living room. My car keys, which I always hung up, were on the bookshelf. Small things, but they gave me the absolute creeps. I started hearing whispers from the walls, from the floor. I'd stop, hold my breath, and they'd disappear. The wood would creak, and I'd jump at every sound. I tried to calm myself down, convincing myself it was just the wind, the old house. But the idea that it was already in the house, or had never left me, consumed me. I pushed an armchair and a dresser against the door. It didn't help. Sleeping was impossible. Shadows and reflections turned into monsters. My mind, which used to be so organized, was now a mess of fear and doubt. I was alone. Fear had taken over everything. I knew I couldn't keep it to myself. I needed to talk to someone, anyone who could give me an ounce of sanity back. I called Clara, my friend of many years, the only one who might not think I was crazy. Her voice gave me a quick relief, but when I started telling her everything, the changing inscriptions, the shadow that made no sense, the objects moving around the house, the line got weird. Not a silence of shock, but of discomfort. She listened to me, but her tone changed. Ellie, you've been working too much, right? It's been a while since you took a vacation. Then, sometimes, this loneliness, it makes you see things that aren't there. She suggested I see a doctor, that maybe I was too stressed. It wasn't anger, but a cold despair. She didn't understand. No one would understand. Her words, which were supposed to calm me down, only threw me deeper into that hole. I was alone. More alone than ever. And the worst part, a little voice in my head started to agree. Was I losing my mind? The little voice in my head, suggesting madness, was almost worse than the fear. But things changed again. It wasn't just in my head anymore. I started to feel it. A cold touch on my skin, out of nowhere, like a hand on my arm. With the window closed, cold drafts would cut right through me in the middle of the room. Sleeping was impossible. I felt a weight on my chest, like someone was sitting on me. And the worst, a cold breath on my neck, like someone was breathing right next to me. I'd jump out of bed, turn on the light running, and for a second, I swear, I'd see a blur, something formless, disappearing into the corner of the room. I tried to scream, but my voice was stuck in my throat. My mind searched for an explanation. The wind, tiredness, but nothing fit. The fear turned into something physical, something I could feel but couldn't catch or fight. It was real, but invisible. I was a wreck. Deep circles, body trembling non-stop. No escape. Something pulled me back to the cemetery, to that tomb. I went at night. No tools, just my flashlight, and consuming despair. I reached that damned Fairmont monument, spoke to the stone. I yelled, begged it to show itself, or leave me be. My hoarse voice broke the heavy cemetery silence, my heart beating wild. Suddenly, the flashlight flickered twice, then died. Total darkness. I felt the tomb vibrate under my fingers. Invisible inscriptions screamed in my mind. A loud, jumbled noise. Something cold. Air left my lungs. It was a violence leaving no visible marks, yet breaking me inside. I was there, alone, helpless, in the grip of something I couldn't understand, couldn't fight. Then the pressure vanished. I fell to my knees, gasping for air. Total, thick darkness. The silence after that noise in my head was worse. I wasn't alone. The air was heavy, freezing. Every heartbeat echoed. I knew it wasn't over, that it watched me in the dark. I tried to stand, hands fumbling on the cold ground. Pitch black, but I had to leave. Every step was a gamble in the dark. My heart pounding hard. I felt a presence, an invisible cold following. I just wanted light, any way out. My hands trembled. I found the flashlight in my pocket. Its weak light cut the black, showing the tomb. Same, but different now. The stone was cracked, thick, black smoke emerging. The "Help Me" inscription was gone. In its place, "You are next." My heart stopped. The smoke began to move, as if watching me. "You are next." Those words froze me. The black smoke twisted. I knew I couldn't stay another second. I dropped the flashlight, ran like hell, tripping on stones, my heart pounding in my throat. I didn't look back, just wanted out. The rusty gate appeared, the exit. I pushed with all my strength. It creaked, opening a little. I got out onto the street, gasping. I felt relief, but a strange, bad relief. I was outside, but knew it hadn't stayed inside. I was on the street, but couldn't scream. My throat dry, tight. I tried to call for help, but only a wheeze came out. Fear had stolen my voice, leaving it trapped back in the cemetery. I was alone with it. I got home. The silence was too much. My throat dry, tight, the scream trapped inside. The house felt too empty, not in a good way. It was an emptiness that watched me, that had followed. Every shadow, every creak, a reminder that the fear was there, with me. I went to the bathroom, needed to just see myself, like really see myself. I looked in the mirror, but my reflection looked off. It wasn't just the tiredness. It felt like there was something else there, behind me, in the mirror. But there was nothing actually there. I started wondering if I was losing it. My heart was still pounding, so I tried to distract myself. I looked at my backpack, just tossed on the floor. It was empty. My tools, all my stuff, the chisel, the brush, the hammer, it all stayed there at the cemetery, on the tomb. It was like the place didn't want me to leave, like it had taken a piece of me. Oakhaven wasn't going to let me go that easy. That shadow, it wasn't just something I saw. It was like it had latched onto me, you know? A cold feeling, a weight. Even without seeing it, I felt it behind me, like a constant warning. It wasn't a ghost. It was worse. It was the certainty that something had broken, and that fear now lived inside me, echoing every time I was alone. An invasion I couldn't just clean out. I tried to talk to someone, but how? Hey, the tomb I'm restoring is sending me messages and laughing at me. Nobody would believe that. I'd sound insane. The emptiness around me wasn't just in the house, it was in my life. I was all alone with this thing, with this fear nobody else could see or understand. Those words on the stone wouldn't leave my head. Help me. Watch your back. It was like the voice was coming from inside me now. The rest of the dead want a joke. My name is Olivia Hayes. I'm 25, and I live in my grandparents' old house in Hamden, Baltimore. My routine is simple, pretty organized. Every morning, I wake up to the sun coming through my window, make coffee, and take care of the garden. In the afternoons, I work on my online graphic design studies and art projects. Nights are for a good book or watching a movie before I head to bed. Every corner of the house reminded me of him, and the grief was a knot in my throat. The letter I found at the grave, with his handwriting and that dried blood ink, really messed me up. The message, "Don't come at night, they don't like visitors," gave me chills, and any peace I had was totally gone. Nights after that letter turned into hell. The silence in the house, which used to just feel sad, now felt like it was watching me. Every shadow, every creak was like a warning that I wasn't alone. I felt alone, but it was a scary kind of emptiness. I missed his sense of security. Sleeping was impossible, and waking up, it was just pain and doubt. That night, before everything went crazy, the grief was suffocating me. The loneliness was a weight I couldn't handle. I just needed to talk to him, one last time. Say everything I'd kept inside. I grabbed paper and a pen, and words of love and goodbye came out with my tears. It was just a way to let it all out. A crazy attempt to find some peace, to close a chapter that felt endless. I just wanted to believe he'd feel it. The grief was so strong, I didn't even think about what would happen next. I left the letter there, on the cold dirt, and for a moment, The loneliness felt a little lighter. But the fear, that fear that something bad would happen, was already stuck to me, and nothing felt normal anymore. I went back home with a weird weight on my chest. I'd done what I needed to, but the emptiness felt bigger. The house was too quiet, like it was holding its breath with me. I went to bed, my head full of stuff. No idea what that letter had really started. I woke up. The sun was coming through the window, but that old lightness wasn't there. The house was quiet, a silence that felt like it was swallowing everything. I tried to get up, but every step echoed. The air felt heavy, a cold feeling. Kinda weird, but it wouldn't go away. It was just inside me, even with the sun out. I went to the kitchen, trying to distract myself, make some coffee. But the silverware drawer was slightly open. I was sure I'd closed it the night before. Did I forget? I mumbled, trying to brush off the weird feeling that turned into a shiver. When I pushed it shut, there was a barely audible creak from inside, and it made me jump. It wasn't just the house settling. It felt like a sign that something was really wrong. My heart pounded. I stood there, frozen, not breathing, staring into nothing. The room seemed normal, but I knew it wasn't. The feeling of being watched grew heavier, like a cold blanket. My eyes swept every corner, searching, but found nothing. Just the silence, which seemed to laugh at me. Doubt consumed me. A fear my grief had opened a door to something I couldn't see. I went back to the kitchen, needing water. But as I got close, I saw it. The cutlery drawer was open again, just like before. My stomach lurched, and that wasn't all. One of the forks, which I'd put away correctly, was flipped upside down. My mind wasn't playing tricks. It couldn't be. That doubt turned into a terrible fear that squeezed my chest. My eyes darted around every kitchen corner, wild, looking for an explanation. But there was nothing. Just silence again. I sat on the couch, the light on, trying to convince myself it was just tiredness, that the drawer and flipped fork were silly. But then, out of the corner of my eye, I saw it. Something thin, almost transparent, zipped past the hallway door, disappearing in a blink. I blinked, rubbed my eyes. It's exhaustion, I repeated like a prayer. I didn't have time to truly believe it. A strong smell, like wet earth, metallic and rusty, just hit me hard. It was the same smell from Grandpa's grave. My stomach churned. The air grew heavy. The smell clung to me, suffocating me. I slowly stood up, every muscle tense, ready for anything. The silence came back. But now, it wasn't just any silence. It was a silence that seemed to scream, to laugh at me. The peace was gone, taken by that strange thing and the fear that wouldn't let me go. My body was stiff, paralyzed by the dirt smell and the silence that provoked me. Doubt ate at me inside, trying to convince me it was just the old house. But then, a dry, dragging creak came from the hallway, like something heavy moving slowly on the wooden floor, a sound that wasn't from the house. My heart raced, pounding hard in my throat. I held my breath, and a cold whisper, almost a puff of cold air, seemed to come from inside the walls, very close to me. It wasn't words, but a presence told me, without speaking, that they were there. Fear squeezed me, a cold fear that stole my peace. I was in a full-blown panic, my whole body shaking. I ran into the bathroom. It felt like the only safe door, and locked it. My gasping breath echoed off the cold tiles, and the silence outside felt heavy. I looked up, accidentally, and saw myself in the mirror. My face was pale, my eyes wide with pure fright. But it wasn't just my reflection. Right in the middle of the mirror, in that familiar handwriting, was the phrase, "Don't come at night. They don't like visitors." The ink was a dark, dried red, impossible to mistake. Blood. The same blood from my grandpa's letter. This wasn't a warning. It was something awful, like they had dirtied my own face. They were watching me, touching me, everywhere, and the fear just kept growing. My heart was pounding so hard, I thought it would jump out of my chest. I was trapped there, in the bathroom and the mirror. The mirror was looking back at me. It wasn't just the phrase, it was like the mirror was holding me there. That blood on the mirror, the same as the letter, told me this wasn't a bad dream. It was real, and they were playing games. I couldn't stay there forever. But where would I go? The whole house felt like it was breathing with them. The silence outside wasn't empty. It was waiting, like they were waiting for my next move. Suddenly, a soft scratching came from the door. It wasn't a mouse. It was heavy, dragging, like long nails scraping wood slowly. They were testing me, messing with me. The fear turned to anger, but an anger that didn't help at all. I was alone, in the dark, and they were everywhere. I took a deep breath, trying to calm down, but the air felt heavy. The door creaked a little more, and I knew I was out of time. It was a game, and I was the prey. Not knowing what they would do was the worst part. It froze me with fear. Not knowing what they would do left me feeling lost, a fear that paralyzed me. I needed to do something, anything. I looked around wildly, and my eyes landed on the glass shower stall. The metal bar, where I hung my towel, seemed like the only solid thing. I grabbed it, feeling the cold metal in my hand, as if it would protect me. But before I could even stand up, I felt it. A touch, cold as ice, on the back of my neck. It wasn't a breath, it was pressure. A hand I couldn't see holding me. My body froze, the fear grabbing me again. The bar clattered to the floor with a dull thud. They were right there, inside the bathroom, with me. They had gotten in, and I couldn't do anything. That touch on my neck froze me for a second. But the panic, mixed with this anger that wouldn't leave, made me react. I spun my body around real fast, my head whipping so quick I felt my neck crack, just desperate to see what had touched me. And that's when I saw it, right there in the corner of the shower stall. It wasn't a person or an animal. It was just a smudge, a shadow darker than the night outside. Dark, and it was sliding back behind the foggy glass. A quick blur, almost a smear. But I knew. It was a shape, a presence, moving, hiding. It wasn't just a sound. It wasn't just the mirror. It was something physical, right there in front of me. My heart just jumped, pounding hard against my ribs, and the air felt heavy in my lungs. That sight, even though it was fast, confirmed everything. They were real, and they had gotten inside for good, and nothing was normal anymore. The fear now had a form, even if it was just a shadow. The shadow moved, and it was like all the air just vanished from my lungs at once. My whole body just locked up. I couldn't breathe, couldn't even scream. My throat closed, a tight knot, and the sound stayed stuck inside. A scream only I could hear in my head, just torturing me. The fear was so big it turned into physical pain, crushing me, taking all my strength. I felt my legs give out, the floor disappearing under me. It wasn't just a shock. It was the cold certainty that everything was over, that they had taken over everything. I didn't know what was real anymore, and I fell, not onto the floor, but into a cold emptiness, and blacked out, not knowing anything else. It was fear just swallowing me whole, with nowhere to run. I woke up sprawled in the hallway, my head pounding. My vision was blurry, and I didn't even know where I was. The shadow was gone, but the cold touch on my neck and that damp earth smell were still clinging to me. I tried to get up, but every muscle ached, my body trembling from the shock. The bathroom mirror looked normal. The dried blood ink message was gone. Only the dried smudge, the one only I could see, stayed. The doubt just ate away at me. I just dragged myself down the hall, every move painful. Then I heard it, a faint whisper, like dry leaves rustling. It wasn't the same kind of threat as before, but a cold echo, coming from all over, like they were saying goodbye. They had left, but the mark stayed. The house was quiet again, a heavy emptiness that seemed to suck all the air out. Knocks started at the front door, persistent ones. My heart just started pounding, terrified they'd come back. I curled up on the floor, stiff with fear. But then I heard a familiar voice. "Olivia, it's Eleanor." It was Eleanor Vance, the neighbor. She came in, her eyes wide seeing me there, so pale, unable to speak. She offered me water, trying to calm me down. But I could tell she didn't really believe me as I tried to explain what had happened. Eleanor helped me up, her voice calming me down a little. She told me to leave, took me to the door. While she locked it, I swear I saw it. A dark shadow vanishing between the trees at the back of the yard, quick, like a flash. They hadn't really left. They were just waiting. The door closed, but the feeling that my house wasn't mine anymore stayed with me. The doubt squeezed me. At Eleanor's house, I tried to breathe, but the air felt heavy. I tried to talk about the dried blood, the smell, the whispers. The words got all jumbled, and the way she looked at me said she thought I was losing it. She just hugged me. My house was empty, but the fear and the doubt of whether they would come back were my only companions. The relief didn't last. The fear just stuck to me. The silence, which used to just feel sad, now felt like a monster. My house, which was my safe place, turned into somewhere that just gave me the creeps to even think about. I couldn't go back. The idea of stepping inside again just paralyzed me, like I'd be stepping into a hole. My grief, which was already heavy, got stolen by a cold fear that just wouldn't let go. Grief was still pressing on me, but now it was mixed with this bad feeling like I was being watched. Any noise at Eleanor's, a creak in the wood, made me hold my breath. I caught myself checking the doors, the windows, even the mirrors several times. It was like they could just show up any moment, grab me, and I couldn't get any peace anymore. The doubt ate at me from the inside. This doubt was eating me up inside. Suddenly, that damp, metallic earth smell would hit me, even in the kitchen. It was the smell from the cemetery, from the grave, and the fear just came right back. Thin shadows would show up at the corner of my eye, then disappear. Am I going crazy? And that cold touch on my neck? It wasn't there, but I felt it, like their unseen hand was still there. It was a strange, silent thing. The letter, the dried blood, his handwriting, and the message on the mirror. All of it played like a movie on repeat in my head. It was proof I wasn't crazy, but it was also the thing trapping me. I kept going over every word, every smudge, trying to understand Grandpa's warning. What was he trying to protect? This doubt ate at me, and it had no end. Eleanor was a sweetheart, but I couldn't explain what I was feeling. How do you talk about the dried blood on the letter, Grandpa's warning? The words just failed me. Her not understanding just made me feel more alone. Nobody understood this fear, this thing that stole my peace. I was alone. The future? I can't even think about it. Who were they? What did they want? These questions ate at me inside with no answers. My life before the letter was just a distant memory. This fear has no end. It's a constant thing. The doubt of what happened just consumes me. My name is Ethan Miller. I was already at the cemetery before the sun came up. The air felt cool as I got my tools ready. Shovel, pickaxe, wheelbarrow. That was my routine. Checking on the graves, making sure everything was neat, and digging new ones if needed. It was mostly quiet, just birds or the wind. A lonely job, but I'd gotten used to how calm it was out there. But going back there after, it turned into hell. Every step at the cemetery felt like a ton. The ground was freezing. The headstones seemed to stare at me. The air, which used to be peaceful, now choked me. A weird silence, you know? My job became torture. Every grave I dug was a reminder. I tried to avoid the spot where it all happened, but I felt like the whole cemetery was watching me. This heavy feeling, like they were getting inside my head all the time. His gaze wouldn't let me go. I swear it wasn't just in my head. I saw it in shadows, in window reflections, in the gaps out there at the cemetery. A blur out of the corner of my eye that vanished as soon as I looked right at it. My house, which was my safe place, became a trap. I was tense all the time, not knowing if what I was seeing was real, if I was losing it. It was horrible. The cemetery's silence, which used to calm me down, now drove me crazy. It wasn't just the lack of noise, but the lack of life that bothered me. Any normal little sound made me jump. I was the only living thing there, in a place full of dead people who didn't seem to be resting. The loneliness ate at me, and the silence became this huge weight. I kept replaying everything in my head. The thumping, the scratches, the body, those eyes. I tried to convince myself it was a mistake, that I was just tired. But his image, watching me, wouldn't leave my mind. My brain couldn't find an explanation, and the fear of not knowing what was happening made me feel like I was losing control. I couldn't tell anyone. Who'd believe a story like that? I stopped answering the phone, stopped leaving the house. My friends just disappeared. The loneliness, which I even liked before, became a prison, something that held me captive because of what I saw. I felt like a ghost, with a secret that was choking me, and his gaze was always there, watching me. like it was inside my head all the time. But the worst part was when the noise started. It wasn't the wind, not leaves. It was a scratching, faint, but without any rhythm. It seemed to come from under the floor, or the old walls of the house. I tried to tell myself it was rats, the wood creaking, or that I was finally losing it. But it just wouldn't stop. When everything went quiet, there it was again. A scrape, a muffled click. I'd hold my breath, tense, and then the fear hit hard. What if it was a sound coming from that grave? The loneliness just made everything worse. Every little noise turned into a monster in my head. The loneliness just made it worse. One day I got home from the cemetery, and the shovel, which always stayed in the garage, was leaning against my bedroom door. I got pissed off right away. Thought it was my own carelessness. But my work pocket knife, which never left my pocket, showed up on the kitchen table. The house was locked, no sign of a break-in. I felt a shiver down my spine. How could that happen? It was like someone had gotten in without leaving a trace. The fear of being watched turned into a certainty, and I felt like I was losing my mind. After the shovel and the pocket knife, I started seeing things. At first, it was quick movements, dark shadows at the corner of my eye, fast blurs where nothing was. I thought it was just being tired, but then it got clearer. One rainy night, looking out the foggy window, for a second in the street's reflection, I swear I saw it. Two eyes, those eyes, still, no expression, with a coldness that made me shake. It was him. I blinked, and it was gone. I felt a shock through my body, a shiver that ran up my spine. It wasn't just in my head anymore. It was like it was everywhere, watching me from outside, from inside. The fear turned into a certainty, and it was horrifying. At the cemetery, by the new graves, Art showed up. The old gravedigger, who was quieter than a stone, was different. His eyes, which usually showed nothing, now had a scared glint. He didn't even ask how I was, just got close slowly and whispered, without looking at me, "You noticed anything different? A strange quiet? Or something moving near that tomb?" His voice came out almost a whisper. My heart froze right then. It wasn't just in my head, it was spreading, and the fear turned into a certainty that wasn't just mine. It was a trauma we were sharing. After Art, things really got worse. A smell started. It wasn't dirt or old cemetery flowers. It was a smell of wet metal, like dried blood mixed with something rotten. It would show up out of nowhere in my house, in the bedroom, in the kitchen, even after I scrubbed everything. Faint at first, then it got heavy, suffocating me. I looked, but couldn't find where it was coming from. The smell seemed to float, an invisible thing following me, invading me, reminding me of that night, of death, and that I wouldn't have peace. It was an endless torment. The smell clung to me, left a metallic taste in my mouth, like I was breathing and swallowing it. It was the smell of old meat, wet earth, dry blood. I tore the whole house apart, desperate, looking for where it came from, proof that I wasn't losing it. I yanked furniture away, opened cabinets, sniffed every corner. In the living room, under the old rug, I saw a dark, almost black stain on the hardwood floor. It wasn't mold or old dirt. It was damp, sticky when I touched it. The smell from there was strong, suffocating me, with an iron smell you couldn't mistake. I knelt, my heart pounding, and ran my finger over it. It was dried blood, mixed with dirt, like something had been dragged there, leaving a rotten trail. This wasn't just in my head anymore. It was real, physical, staining my house, my life. Fear turned into despair, and the loneliness made me feel even more vulnerable, with no one to see it, to believe me. What I was feeling was really there. I needed to breathe, to see things differently, to have someone else see it. The next day, I dragged myself to the cemetery. Every step felt heavy. Art, my coworker for years, looked at me differently. He didn't say anything about my deathly pale face or the smell I must have been giving off. But the way he looked at me while I was digging a new grave made me think he knew something weird. He whispered without looking at me, "Sometimes what we dig up doesn't really go back down. It stays around." My heart jumped like a punch to the chest. It was a warning. I felt it. He knew what was happening, that the problem wasn't just mine. For a second, I had a tiny bit of hope, thought I wasn't alone in this fear. But his silence, when he went back to work, made me feel worse. The loneliness didn't shrink, it doubled. If even he, who saw the same things, felt this doubt and couldn't speak openly, then there was no escaping what was consuming me. I was more alone than ever, with a fear now confirmed by someone else, but still only mine. After what Art said, the Somerset Valley Cemetery changed for me. The shadows seemed darker, moving alone, like they were alive. The wind, just wind before, now whispered things I didn't get, but felt were meant for me. At home, it was worse. Every dark corner was an eye staring at me. I saw that dead man's gaze everywhere. Wall cracks, window reflections, even ceiling stains. It wouldn't let go, a threat giving no peace. I couldn't sleep. His image stuck to me. Every sound was a step, every silence a breath behind me. My head became hell, an endless torment. Fear was a physical thing, stuck on me, and not knowing what was real was driving me crazy. The loneliness got worse because who'd believe this madness? I was losing control, and it felt like the whole world was trying to scare me. Lying in bed, lights on, didn't help. The dark stayed in the corners, in the shadows. The gaze, stronger. Not just a wall stain, but like the whole wall was him. I tried to close my eyes, couldn't. Felt like he forced me to look back. Suddenly, the streetlight from the window changed. It gathered, became one point, right in the room's center. And there, in that spot, floating, I saw it. Not my imagination. It was the gaze. Those same wide, unblinking eyes, fixed on me. No body, nothing, just those eyes, floating in the total dark. They saw me. They knew everything. I felt a spine chill. Not cold, but death. Couldn't move, couldn't scream. Legs, arms, mouth, all locked up. I was paralyzed. Just lay there, unable to move, heart pounding. I thought it would tear my chest. It was the thing invading me for good. What I felt turning real. The loneliness weighed heavier, alone, staring at the nothing that stared back. Only fear. This was the absolute worst. I forced my muscles, but I was stuck. My body screamed to run, to get away, but I stayed put. When I finally dragged myself out of bed, I tripped. The bedroom door felt miles away. I ran, clumsy, bumping into things, heart in my throat, bursting. It didn't help. The gaze was there. At the door, in the hallway, everywhere. No matter where I went, it waited. I realized the truth. Nowhere to go, no way to run. Panic became a knot in my throat, choking me. Helplessness crushed me. I was trapped, no way out. Fear turned into pure despair, taking over. On impulse, I broke free. The eyes were everywhere, floating, staring at me from every corner of the room. It was too much to take. My legs gave out. I collapsed on the cold floor, hitting my head. The pain snapped me back. A shock. The eyes still spun in my vision as I tried to pull in air, but couldn't. All I felt was fear. The eyes turned into a giant fear that felt like it was swallowing me whole. Suddenly, a sound. Thunder ripped through the sky, making the whole house shake. It was so loud, so sudden, that the thing disappeared. The eyes vanished, turned to smoke, went back to the dark corners, weaker. The sound of the thunder hung in the air, and the silence after was heavy, but different. The tightness in my chest eased, letting me breathe again. I could breathe again, but only to completely collapse. I lay there, gasping, shaking non-stop. My body was soaked in cold sweat, every muscle aching. My head felt empty, a blank after so much terror. The house went silent again, just the faint rain and my heart pounding. The threat was gone, but what happened? And the exhaustion consumed me, leaving me spent. I dragged myself to the wall where the eyes had appeared. My hands trembled. I ran my fingers over the plaster, looking for anything. Nothing. Not a scratch, not a stain, just the cold, smooth surface. Having no proof hit me like a punch to the gut. I got up with difficulty, searching the room, checking doors and windows. Everything was as before. The doubt that I was losing it finally got to me, stronger than the fear of what had happened. Was I finally losing my mind? I huddled in the corner of the bed, pulling the blanket up to my neck like a kid. The lights were on, but I knew it wouldn't help. The hell had passed, for now. But the peace was just fake, a pause that wouldn't last. There was no sleeping. All I could do was wait for dawn. Every shadow on the wall, every little sound outside, reminded me of that gaze. After that night, the house became a prison for me. I checked the locks about 10 times before I sat down. I peeked through the curtain gaps, thinking I'd see something out there. Sleep? Forget about it. The lights stayed on, because the dark was an invitation for it to show up. My head wouldn't stop, always waiting, always watching. There was no peace anymore. I just kept waiting for something to happen again. The whole world seemed to threaten me. That gaze, it wouldn't leave my head, no way. It showed up in the window's reflection, in the mirror when I went to brush my teeth. It was always it, staring at me. And the silence, before it was good. Now it was the worst. I heard scratches, muffled clicks, like they were coming from inside the walls. I knew they weren't real, but my heart raced. The silence became a trigger for fear, something that wouldn't let me go. Going back to Somerset Valley Cemetery, that was hell. Every grave I dug was a reminder, a hole for my own. They knocked on the door. I pretended I wasn't there. Loneliness, which used to just be how I lived, turned into a prison. Me and this secret alone, eating me up inside. There was nowhere to run. There was nowhere to run, and my mind wouldn't stop. What was it? Why did it happen? There was no answer, and that was driving me crazy. Peace was gone, just a distant memory now. Now it was just doubt, eating me up inside. My life got turned upside down, invaded by something I didn't understand. Nothing made sense anymore.